can remember your future.
How?
Yeah, exactly.
So how do people get what their purpose is?
Ah, that's great. What pissed you off most as a kid? It's going to be the opposite of that. But when parents start telling their kids, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do this, go brush your teeth, the pineal begins to calcify when they start being told what to do and they start to give up their own imagination. And so the way to raise a secure kid is
My guest today is Mark Scherer. Mark pivoted from being a construction company owner to being a coach, helping people with methods such as using consciousness to discover themselves. Mark also told me he used to stutter, and I tell you, I couldn't imagine it if he hadn't told me. He shared with me how he uses methods such as what he calls recalling memories from your future. I'm a strong believer of investing in getting self-awareness because I believe it's the blueprints, the foundation of all decisions, whether that be finances, whether in business or family, and so on. I hope you learn from the conversation. My name is Ola Williams, and this is the Small Business Startup School. Mark.
yes. How are
Good.
you?
I'm good. And you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah, good to have you here. I wanted to ask you, I was listening to another introduction about you, and I listened to the parts where it said you have construction company owner before, starting Encompass Life. Would you like to talk about that? So what prompted you to pivot into Encompass Life?
Yeah, I had several companies. I got into things to make money, and they weren't things that really turned me on. Like I didn't really like what I was doing. I did it, and sometimes I'd make money, sometimes I'd lose money, but it was most of everything I was doing was about making a living rather than what was my passion, what was my purpose, what was that about. I had a lot of trauma growing up as a kid, and so I was just looking for anything I could do to just survive. And when I had the construction company, sometimes we'd do well and sometimes we'd do really, really crappy. But I guess what I found out while having those things is if I didn't have passion for something, when things were going crappy, I didn't want to do them. So like when I got into doing what I'm doing now, after I got out of that too, I started doing things that even if it wasn't going good, that I still loved doing it so much that I could go through those types of downturns. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when I was in a construction company, I was taking personal growth classes. I was taking classes to better myself. And that was my passion. I was using the money I made from that to be able to go take classes as something I really loved doing. So I've been studying consciousness for about 35 years. And all over, I've studied in Europe. I studied in throughout the U.S. Took some really fringy stuff and took some mainstream classes as well. But a lot of the classes I was taking, I was gone maybe 30 days at a time, sometimes 4 months out of the year.
Mm.
And the classes I was taking were really cool. I had clients. I started getting clients coaching, even though was running other companies. I started getting coaching clients. A lot of them were asking me, like, "Hey, where can we learn to do what you're doing?" I said, "Well, most people can't take off do 30-day sabbaticals, out of their life unless they're really, really committed." So when I started Encompass Life about 6 years ago, my goal was to be able to work with people in a way that they could get the tools that I've gotten over 35 years online in the comfort of their own home instead of being able to go 3 or 4 months out of the year and study for as long as I did to be able to get these tool sets.
Yeah, some people find it very difficult to, change direction. And part of that is the fear of the unknown, like security. So what role did that play for you? I guess my question is sometimes people are thinking, oh, this is not fulfilling me. There must be something bigger. This is not my
Yeah.
purpose. But they're just scared to pivot because of their at least whatever they were doing was in their comfort zone. So what made you, did the money help? Did the fact that, oh, you had some money nested help, or that's not the
No,
story?
the wild thing is, Ola, I was worth multiple millions of dollars, and I hated what I was doing. I wanted to get out. A friend of mine's son was working for me. I had at my high point, I had maybe 85, 90 employees, and maybe another 50 contractors. on contract. And a friend of mine's son embezzled $350,000 from me in 90 days. And that set upon a reaction where I lost 95% of my wealth in 120 days. And I kept saying, if you put another million in the bank, I'll put another million in the bank, and I'll be able to, have a bigger chunk of money to be able to go into coaching and be able to in case it didn't work out, I'd have a nice nest egg. So I went into coaching when it was like it was the first time I committed to something at that level and went all in. I said, I'm gonna do this no matter what. And coming from what I came through made me a way better coach than if I would have had everything, all my ducks in a row, and being able to do it from that. But I came from the bottom up, and I walked myself back through this. I had clients who were asking, like, how do we? Oh, I don't remember. You said something that gets most people snookered. People
Yeah.
talk about being in their comfort zone, and I found out that's a big misnomer. Most people, they use the word comfort zone, but when people use the word comfort, it puts people to sleep. Most people really is in their familiar zone. And most people are really familiar with being miserable, but when they use comfort, they go to sleep and they don't believe there's anything else but that. And they think, well, if this is comfort, what the hell am I going to get out of if I get out of this, what else is there because I'm miserable where I am? So they got to get really clear about where you are. And I began to realize that all the words that most people were using weren't even true. So I said, what? What my comfort zone was being familiar with something that made me money, but I was miserable in. Most people have that same thing. You got to get real, man, and feel really. Oh my gosh, I'm familiar with being miserable in my life. Yes, you are. You're selling your soul for a little bit of security and walking around dead, or finding a way to medicate yourself, which I did that too. Like, well, let's go get a deal, go party. Don't get a deal, go party. What a way to live life.
Yeah, and I guess after doing it for a while, you just feel, oh, I can continue this way. For young people, do you think that's more difficult to make that decision for younger people, maybe? And I mean, people maybe in their 20s or 30s. Do you think it's difficult to change from wherever they are, even if they what we call the familiar zone, even if they're not happy?
Yeah.
Do you think it's more difficult? And what can help them to really pivot into something bigger than them, more in line
Well,
with their
for
purpose?
most going through the education system we have here in the U.S., it's not to make people smart. It's a way to dumb people down, really, and that they teach people what to think, but they don't teach people how to think. When you do that, it takes away a person's discernment. They become a slave for a paycheck. It takes away their creativity and intuition, and they just start repeating whatever was told to them.
Yeah.
And for somebody to really become successful and really be happy with their life, I'm back up. I saw a video, and it said the greatest feelings we can have as humans on a scale of 1 to 10. Sex was an 8, psychedelics was a 9. That's why people get so lost in all the sex and psychedelic stuff. And it said the only thing that was a 10 out of 10 was a conscious use of our co-creative gift. In other words, actually going for life and living it fully. And a lot of what we do here is based in scriptures, not religion, but scriptures. And Christ said, I came for you to have life and have it abundant. So the only thing that can really have people be self-fulfilled is living in that abundant way of life and really understanding how life works and how everything out here is a mirror of what's going on inside. Whenever I had the embezzlement, I mean, I was praying to get out of the company. I hated it. And I got what I asked for. Knowing what I know now, I would have asked for a little bit more detailed way of getting out, but I got exactly what I asked for. But I did it unconsciously. I did it from a place of hate rather than from a place of love. I hated what I was doing and I wanted out, rather
Yeah.
than what's the most loving way for me to exit this company.
Hmm.
And I
So,
was asking stupid questions and I got stupid answers.
so what's a lovely way for people to exit company?
Well, it just depends on what you're choosing to do. I mean, there's all kind of way to exit. Find if you find your purpose, it doesn't matter what you're doing because your purpose is bigger than what you're doing. In other words, somebody's purpose could be I awaken enthusiasm in all I contact, everyone I meet, right? That could be their purpose in life. And if they're doing that, they could be working at a McDonald's. It'll be the best at McDonald's in the city. Like everybody go, something's different with this McDonald's because there's somebody in there who's really, really lit up. And they'd move into management or whatever, but their purpose is so much bigger than what we're doing. Most people don't even understand what their purpose is.
Exactly. So how do people get what their purpose is? That's
Ah, that's great. What pissed you off most as a kid? It's going to be the opposite of that. I can find somebody's purpose in a couple of minutes. If somebody had a really tough childhood and with a lot of conflict, then I know that person's here to bring peace to the planet, bring peace to relationships, bring peace to families. Whatever was their biggest pain as a child turns into their purpose as an adult.
and that always works without any.
Always, always. Mine, I couldn't say the word love. I was raised in a really tough childhood. We couldn't say the word hate as a kid. If I say the word hate, we get in trouble for that, get hit for it. Does that mean there wasn't any hate in our childhood? No, there was a lot of it. We didn't use the word though, you know? I couldn't say the word love and I couldn't speak in front of people. Terrified to speak in front of people. And so what am I doing that had really had me come alive? Well, I'm here to get in front of people and speak about what the power of love. That's when I came alive.
Hmm.
Before that, I was terrified what other people thought, worried about how to do things, and now I just follow that, and everything works out.
How about I've met somebody before and the person said, you know, Hola, I can't remember much about what happened during my childhood. How
Mm.
about people like that? How do they find their purpose?
Yep. So if somebody has, I can't remember, it means they have some really emotional things that they don't want to touch. Feelings are the gateways of memories. Feelings access memories. If I was to ask you to give me an example of a really beautiful romantic encounter, right? Or maybe a really crappy one, you could go into the feelings of it and remember the details of it very, very easily. But when somebody can't remember the things of their childhood, they had some trauma that occurred up where they couldn't deal with it and they didn't want to feel it. They hated feeling it. So when they hated feeling it, they blocked it out. I share with you a little bit that we're doing things really differently here.
Right.
um, Feelings give us access to memories. So when we can produce a new feeling, we get a new memory. And what I mean by new memory, I mean it's brand new. You can't find it in your past. So if it's a brand new feeling accessing a brand new memory, guess where the memory comes from?
Where?
Your future.
Hmm.
You can remember your future.
How?
Yeah, exactly. That's what one of our classes is called From How to Wow.
That's
And
interesting.
yeah, it is. I mean, all it's for when it first happened for me, it was, geez, no, maybe 12 years ago. And I was doing this exercise in front of a group of people. And I was talking about how everybody gets a calling or something. And when I said it, all of a sudden I got a memory from my future. And it was like 40 hours worth of Netflix got downloaded to me in a couple of seconds.
Wow.
And it was so intense. I mean, I didn't see it all, but I saw glimpses of it and it was the emotions of it came in. So when it hit, I had maybe 30 or 40 people in the room. I just start crying. And people were like, "Are you okay?" And not like a pretty cry. I mean, one of those really slobbering, embarrassing cries kind of deal. And the more I got embarrassed about it, the more I cried. You know, the more intense it got because that's how it works, right? But I could see like what my financial life was like, what my relationships were like. I could pull a tab and see all these memories, and everything I saw was coming true. However, started 10 years ago. It was I could see it, and then I had a little bit of a type A type of a personality. Like try to force things to get done.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, that sucks. And I could see a relationship and like why did that person being the way that I see them in the movie? Like they're not playing, they're not doing what I see. Like what the hell's wrong with them? I thought it was all about them. I missed it took me a while to figure it out. What I had to do was I had to ask myself, what characteristics do I have in this? Who am I? And I got the opportunity to become that character. And I found out to have the life I love, I had to find out what I hated about myself. That's also limiting me the most, and also I'm defending the most. Transform that into what I love and become that new character. And that's when things started to really flow.
So from working with people, is it everybody that it's usually able to tap into memories of their future?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. Is that what happens? So sometimes, and it happens like in seconds, or sometimes something happens and I feel like I've experienced that before, like
Mm-hmm.
a deja vu. Is that it? Is that
Could
me
be.
remembering
Yeah,
things from the future?
could be. If it's a brand new feeling, you're going to get a brand new access. And here's we lead these online classes where we'll have somebody go into this exercise where they're getting a memory. And a lot of times, everyone on the call, I'll have them see, like, sometimes the person doing is the last person to see it. The new member will come in and I'll ask everybody independently, text me what you're seeing. And they will all message me, no communication between them, the exact same thing. So 15 people are seeing the exact same movie. So what's the chances of that?
That's powerful. Wow. So if I went on your website, how do I access this course?
The courses that start all this is either the class called the Basics. That's an online class. It's 2 2-hour calls per week for a month, plus an individual coaching call, and that's led by one of our senior coaches. And then we have a class called From How to Wow. That's a 3-day intensive class I lead in person. We have it coming up in Dallas and Jacksonville, and I choose to know where else. We travel. We travel to do those classes.
Do you
And
ever come to Canada?
I'll come to Canada. Give me some people. I'll be happy to come to Canada. We're going to Costa Rica to lead classes there. We got an invite to go to the Netherlands. So yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Oh, I'm so very interested in that. I think a lot of things that happen, kind of everything, it's linked to consciousness, being in the moment. I feel like if we get that part right,
Yeah,
we get even every other part, like family, business,
yep,
we get it right. So I feel like that's like really important.
yep. Me
So,
too.
yeah,
And most people, they look to produce results in their life, and they like make X amount of dollars, and they will go produce that result, and they go, well, that ain't it. And then they'll maybe get a sports car. Oh, the sports car is going to be it. They go get the sports car. Well, that's not it. And what I found out, most people are manifesting what most people are doing is conjuring something. They're putting a result out and they're getting the result, but it's based on what they want or what they think they want. It's a mental deal. And the word "want" means a desire without ever having. In Scripture, that says, "The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not."
yeah,
And so, when somebody's manifesting from a place of want has a like anger and frustration tied into it. So they're manifesting through that layer of frustration. So when the manifestation shows up, they're still frustrated with their manifestation. We do here is we change the chemistry first, then they see a vision, and then they become that character, and it's a different level of fulfillment. It's from the inner out rather than from the outer in.
right. That is so powerful. So let's talk about glass ceiling.
Oh yeah,
I have even faced glass ceiling myself in my past work life where I couldn't just move forward. I didn't know what was preventing the promotion from coming, but it wasn't forthcoming. With a bit of hindsight, I can almost say it was when I had options that I got out of that glass ceiling. So I had some other options. I could go somewhere else. I felt like I could do some other things. I wasn't stuck in that organization. Then suddenly, the promotion I was even looking forward to came forth, but I didn't want it anymore because I had other options at that time. So, and I stayed in, and that why it interests me is I know a lot of people struggle with that as well, because I stayed in that level of not being able to move forward and being frustrated
mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I want us to talk about that for somebody listening or watching that is in that same situation, feeling stuck, what can help right now?
Yeah. So when somebody is in a state of stuckness, give you an example from a couple different clients. One client was an attorney. I met her. I'm going to interrupt. I was going to do a yoga class. She was walking in. I said, "Hey, how you doing today?" And she just started crying. She said, "I don't even know why I'm crying." I said, "Well, I do." I said, "I'm a coach. And this kind of happens frequently around me." I said, "Here's my card." So we talked, and she was, "Hey, my business will get to a certain level and it'll blow up. My relationship get to a certain level and they blow up." She says, "I'm really looking to, like how I get out of this pattern because I've been in this pattern for 30 years or something." So we started talking, and she had been sexually assaulted as a young teenager. Sometimes you got to ask some real. I had to ask some really weird questions. I said, in the sexual assault, did your body begin to respond to the assault as find pleasure, respond pleasurably in the assault? She goes, "Well, yes, yes, it did." She goes, "I feel really guilty about feeling good." So anytime that she would get her life would turn good, guilt would show up and she would blow it up. There's always a key factor that's going to that produces that glass ceiling. I worked with somebody who they had become very successful with their company, had reached a certain level of success, and been stuck there for a number of years. They built their success based on I'm gonna prove to my dad I can do it. They based their success in business on anger and resentment, which people can become very successful with that up to a point, and then they're going to hit the glass ceiling. So did a couple sessions, went through that, and the company grew 10x in a year, and now it's going up. So they're probably hitting 30x in 3 years. So almost $1 billion company in 3 years from $30 million. That's crazy growth. And they had health issues also that they were on thyroid meds, and they reduced their meds by 50% after first session. So in this, it's just the thyroid's about anger, suppressed holding anger in. That's what people have going on with thyroid issues. And it was the same thing that was affecting their thyroid that was also affecting their business.
So are you saying that when I was feeling stuck, when I couldn't move forward in that organization, there was some anger issues that was preventing me from moving forward?
Resentment,
So
fear, something. A lot of people say, I found a lot of people are, some people say they got to be fear of failure, but a lot of people have a fear of success.
so when somebody is feeling resentment and anger, so does that mean that's people in the organization that could probably impact the person from moving forward? Are they
Yep.
now feeling that anger?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it's two things can't occupy the same place at the same time. So if somebody's holding on to anger, that anger is affecting their manifestations, whether the person acknowledges it's in there or not, right? It's just like kind of way I explain things. If people think they can compartmentalize their feelings, or maybe that they got through them, or they made it okay, or something. The way most people make things okay is like if you had a punch bowl with some turds floating around in it, and you take a piece of cheesecloth and you strain it, and you leave that cheesecloth and the turd still in your punch bowl, and you think you got a clean punch. That's how most people are with their emotions. Like they hold it in, they put it in, but it's affecting their life everywhere. It's affecting their relationships, it's affecting their business dealings, it's affecting everything. Until that person can actually transform that, not release it or let it go or any of that other stuff. It's got to have a transformational process to it. The way we talk about it here is we talk about a person has to get a PhD in anger resentment. In other words, find out exactly what it does, what it's cost them, how it sneaks into their life, how it can take them over. When somebody's really changing their lives, the most important time that you're actually changing your life is like imagine yourself at 100 times the greater success. And if you're when you're at 100 times greater success, imagine how you handle kerfluffles. It's something that would normally trigger you. Imagine if you have 100 times more money in the, if a bill triggers you. Well, if you have 100 times more money in the bank, what happens if the bill shows up? I just pay it. It's okay.
Right.
You
It's
got
not a
you got to
problem
be
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to become that character, and the most important time for you to visualize and become that character is in a moment of adversity. Because if that adversity hooks you again, whatever is still inside there is what's manifesting. So that's what I found is the most important time to be able to address these things.
How about for somebody that owns a business and is feeling stuck? So in this instance, the person is they can do whatever they want to do because it's their business, but they're still stuck.
No. So like I said, it's gonna revert back to love. What do you love doing? Is a business what you really love? Is it if here there's things I really love doing and there's things I don't. When I first started up, I had lost a whole bunch of money. So I was like, I got to do it all myself, got to do it all myself, got to do it all myself. I can't afford this, to get people, and things were falling through the cracks. And I remember I was coaching a client. They said, "Man, you need to get a personal assistant." I said, "Oh, I see you. All right, I can't afford a personal assistant right now. I'm, blah, 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 all this stuff. So you need to get a personal assistant." And I was like, and I could hear myself saying, I can't, and I don't, don't have the money to. I could hear all the not things, all the knots. If you're saying a bunch of knots, there's a direct correlation between the word not and anxiety. So you got to say what you actually choose. So I remember sitting there and go, there's those sneaky little knots again. I gave myself the feeling of having my perfect personal assistant. Like, not trying to figure out how to get it or anything, but my perfect assistant. Put my feet up on my desk, wrote down some of the wrote down some of the skill sets that this person has. My next coaching call was an hour and a half after I got off the call with the other one, working with this lady, and we got about halfway through the call. She goes, "You know what?" She goes, "I had a feeling you could use a personal assistant." And I'm just sitting there going, "Come on now." She goes, "You know what I used to do with my previous life?" I said, "No." She goes, "I was a executive assistant for high level Google management." She goes, "My salary was $130 an hour working for Google." I was like, "Oh, I can't afford that." I didn't even say the words. She goes, you don't have to pay me that much." She goes, "I like to do part of this on hourly pay and then part of it on trade with you." And I'm just sitting there going, and you know what? She asked for $30 an hour, and that was exactly what I had written down. So here I'm getting $130 an hour personal assistant for $30 an hour. This lady typed at like 110 words an hour while having a conversation with me. And she took on everything I had, plus about six major tasks I thought I was going to hire somebody else to do.
Is she still with you now?
No, she's taking our classes and becoming a coach with us, and but she has gone on to thrive in her life as well. But she came in perfect timing with us. I mean, so all those things that you're doing, if you're a business owner and you got things that you don't like doing, and that you know if somebody else could, if you could get them off of you, that you could
Yeah.
have fun with, find a way to do that. It takes a little bit of faith. Takes a little bit of faith. Takes a little bit of being able to manage your thoughts and stuff, and just jump in and do it. Watch what happens. Allow life to provide magic for you.
Hmm. Interesting. Some people don't have faith, so
Yep.
and
Some
I
people
can't
some
blame
people
them.
have
Yeah.
some people have faith but terrified of taking action.
Yeah.
Faith without action is death, and faith with action is life eternal of whatever that project is you're doing.
If you are learning from this episode, I am very glad and I have a favor to ask from you. Could you like the episode, subscribe to the channel, and share with others as well? These actions from you will be helpful to continue to bring the show to you and to others that may benefit from it. Thanks very much. You know what, Mark? I think it's those, what are those things that can help in taking action? I think that's where the thing is. I believe in belief. If that makes sense. I believe everybody is looking for something to believe or already has something to believe. I believe in the power of believing, whatever that is, whatever it is for you, but that you have to believe in something. There's something greater that is pulling us, that we want to believe in. Now, that action that you talked about, that's his, I think that is the thing that pulls people back. Like, how do you take action when you feel like a failure? What's the little
Yep.
steps that you could take that
All right.
would even, propel
Couple,
you forward?
yeah, a couple of different ways. But one, you're using the word believe differently than the way I use the word believe. Most people, when they talk about belief, they think it's a set of thoughts. The word believe actually means to be alive in. So in other words, if you believe in the success of your business, you be alive in the success of your business, not
Mm.
stuck up in your head in a set of thoughts. And remember, I was talking about how you can go to the future and get a memory, right?
Yeah.
And then from the future, you ask yourself the question, what steps did I take to start this process? And you'll get them information. So instead of trying to figure out what to do, you'll remember what you did.
That's so powerful.
And when somebody can start to remember what they did and take those initial steps and notice how those initial steps you remembered of what you did, even though you have yet to take them, how they begin to have it to create a domino effect and everything begins to happen for you.
What if you don't like what steps you took in the future?
What do you mean?
What if I can remember the future now and I don't like what I see?
Interesting. When I first started doing this too, I remember starting doing, I go, what if I do all this stuff and I still don't like it? I mean, I didn't know whether I was going to like it or not, right? But the little voice in my head, well, what if you do all this? And what if you don't like it? Why if you do that? What if you don't like it? I could hear a little voice. Finally, I just told it, just shut F up. That voice, that little limiting voice is what's trying to keep you out of it. Everything that's happened has been even grander than what I thought was possible. I've been doing a
Mm.
version of this for 16 years, and it keeps getting grander and grander. All of our students are reporting the same thing. Somehow or another, whatever I was able to see, and then when it actually manifests and shows up in the 3D world, somehow or another, it gets even greater levels of upgrade than what I was able to see from where I saw it. So you got to
So people
once you
always
start
like
doing
it.
once you start doing a little bit of it, it starts to like, oh man, this is kind of cool. Oh, this is kind of fun. And there may be some really, a lot of people go, oh man, to make all these changes is really hard. And then they make the change. And I go, hey, would you like to go back to where you were 30 seconds ago? Oh, hell no. Why not? That was hard. That's that liar self that's inside people's head. Oh man, to do that's gonna be really hard. It's gonna be really tough. I go, nope, staying where you are is what's really tough and hard. That's the hard life. Trying to stay stationary. It's fun. I'm doing things now that 20 years ago, somebody, hey, Mark, you're going to be getting in front of groups of people and speaking in front of audiences. I would have said, you're a nutso, man. You crazy. You cray, man. You can't talk in front of people.
So
You got a great, you got a great smile, by the way, Ola. Thank you.
oh, thank you, Mark. So I want us to really lean into this glass ceiling of a thing. So if somebody was, and I think all that information about having memories from the future, I think that is so powerful. And I'm going to explore that with you. I can tell you right now. So is there a role for if somebody was an employee in an organization and they're feeling stuck and they're listening to this and they have saying, okay, they're going to take action, they're going to lean into all these wonderful things that we have been discussing. Is there a role for the leaders in that organization that they're working hard?
Yep. And for their employees to, for an employees too, to begin to understand how this works, because most people compete on how much pain they can take and how many complaints they have in their life. I remember later class probably 15 years ago, and I asked people, so what don't you like about what do you don't like in your life? Oh my God, Ola. People couldn't wait to talk. I don't like when people pull out in front of me. I don't like when my son does this. I don't like when my husband does this. I said, just give me three things. No one wanted to stop at three. There was so much passion around what they hated. It was hilarious. We got done. Everybody got done doing it. People were still raising their hand. I got some more stuff to complain about. Like so much passion about it. About an hour later, I said, "Got another question for you. Tell me what you love about life." You know what? I could have dropped a pin in the room. No one wanted to talk. So we've been conditioned to think that life is painful and there's some type of a badge of honor to be able to live with all this pain, this suffering. And people compete on it, how much they can take. What we're doing, there's a different way of living life. It's about how much love and how much enthusiasm can you have for life. That's a different conversation. It's a different viewpoint, and it will access different ways of operating very, very quickly. When somebody's in a complaint mode, their creativity shut off, intuition shut off, making life
Mm.
wrong, and all that stuff shut off. That's all they can see and hear is complaints. You can only see and hear what you feel. So you change your feelings, and all of a sudden you're going to start to see life in a brand new way.
Is that linked to gratitude?
I'm glad you brought that up. When I was a kid, I remember I went to Catholic school, and I remember I read the Bible so I could win arguments against my parents because they would say something was in the Bible, and I go, no, that's not. So but anyway, I remember I read in school we had a religion class. It said Christ gave thanks for the miracles he had not yet performed, for he knew they would be there. And I remember reading that piece, and I was like, man, that's really interesting. Can we talk about that? No, we don't talk about that. Why can't you talk about it? Well, you can't ask that question. Why can't you ask that question? You can't ask that one either. Like you just got to believe what we tell you, not discuss anything. I was like, man, there's juice in that statement. Christ gave thanks for the miracles he had not yet performed, for he knew they would be there. And I didn't get it for decades until I started doing it this way, until that thing hit whatever 15 or 12, 15 years ago. And I went, oh my God, that's what he was talking about. So you get into a place of gratitude before you can even see the miracle, before you can even see it. Don't try to conjure something and then be grateful for it. Get into the feeling of gratitude to access what you're going to be grateful for. Way different way of doing it. Feelings first. Wow,
Mm.
I'm so grateful for my life. Don't even try to get what you're grateful for until the feeling really lives in you. Then start to see it.
Does talking about it help? Saying it help, like I am grateful for or I feel grateful for. Does it help?
Yeah. I mean, whatever you feel grateful for too, but imagine if you're going to take your gratitude and raise it say maybe 10 times or 100 times, right? 100 times more gratitude you've felt for anything in your life so far. Okay, go, oh my gosh, yeah, that's gonna be a little stretch for you, right?
Yeah.
So you stretch yourself into that new level of gratitude, then see from there.
Yeah. So let's talk about gratitude and how that links to people, manifesting what they want in life.
Right.
Yeah.
Most people aren't grateful for life. As for sharing about the law of attraction and the gift of co-creation. So most people who don't have, they may say, "Oh, I know about that. I understand that," but they're not effective at using it. So until somebody becomes really effective at using this wonderful gift, they're not going to be very grateful. One day I was sitting in my office and I had a brand new feeling come up. This is a really different feeling. I really didn't understand what it was, so I asked this, "What is this feeling?" And I heard the word reverence. And that's the first time I had felt what reverence was about, about life. I said, wow, I said, what is this? I was contemplating about where things were going in my life and had this brain. It was bigger than gratitude, different than gratitude. I said, man, what is this feeling? And I heard the word reverence. I just started crying. Just to say reverence.
Reverence.
Can you feel what's in that word?
I feel like, so who comes to me that who should I
Gratitude,
rev? Yeah.
like gratitude, respect, all that in that word. I was like, wow, this is really different. So most people, I'll give you an example. I've asked, I frequently ask people in classes, have you ever been somewhere where life isn't? And you wouldn't believe how many people have to ponder that question. And let me think about that. Well, I was in the desert one time. So when you were in the desert, were you alive when you were in the desert? Well, yeah, yeah. Oh. So I guess the desert still has life in it because I was in it. I go, yeah, I guess so. So most people believe, like they have to ponder that question about have I been somewhere where life isn't. So why I'm asking that question, because in scriptures, God is love, life, truth, and light. So people believe they're separate from life. Well, that's an impossibility. And they believe they have to do something good enough to get back to life. Or talk about God here. They believe they're
Yeah.
separate from God. And we have to do something good enough or right enough to get back to God. And when people are in that belief system, that's when all the pain and suffering exists. They're making life wrong, and they're trying to look for something in their outer world in order for them to feel happy. But we produce some really phenomenal results here, and the way we do it is what's happening is the person is changing their relationship to life, capital L life, not little squeaky life. When they change the relationship to capital L life, all areas of their life change simultaneously and exponentially. So they may come to us with a relationship issue or a health issue. Well, they all of a sudden they begin to realize something new about life, have a new insight on life, and when they do so, they begin to trust life in a new way. Their faith begins to grow. And
Mm.
as their faith grows, their manifestations grow in boldness and velocity. So, rather than working on a little myopic viewpoint of a result in their life, work us on, we change the relationship of life and then everything else changes. Different way of doing it.
Absolutely. I was sharing with you how I went out of my way to buy gift for some of my family members, and they were like 6 or 7 in number. And because they were that many, I bought like, shirts, dresses for the ladies, shirts for the men. And it took me a lot of time to go through that because I didn't just go to the mall to just pick up the items. I went there and to even purchase a dress, it took minutes and minutes because I had to look at it. Oh, would this one fit this person? Would it? I had to look at the personality of people. So my thought went into they were carefully selected gift. So I spent a lot of time in the mall, about an hour or so, buying gift for like 6 or 7 people because I felt that was important, putting thought into it. But when I sent the gift over, some people did not even say thank you. I thought about that and I felt, why? So let's talk about that. Why do you think they didn't say thank you? And why did I guess it's obvious why that felt bad to me because of the time I had spent at the mall. So I felt, oh, I could have used that time to do something else rather than spending it on ungrateful people. But why do you think they didn't say thank you?
Yeah, it's
They
not
didn't,
about them.
yeah.
It's, you know, you can do. I used to say things and expect something back. Give an example. I used to say, I got dating somebody, and I would tell them I loved them, and they wouldn't say anything back. I was like, I'm
Mm.
telling you, I love you. Like, well, why don't you say anything back? I'm like, what the hell? I knew they loved me, and I was going. I began to realize me telling them I loved them and them not telling me anything back had nothing to do with, like, when I was doing it that way, I was doing like shopping list love or tit for tat love. Well, you're not doing that, so I'm not going to do this. You're not doing that, so I'm not going to do this. You know, I began to realize, I love telling this person I really love them. Whether they told me they love me or not, it doesn't make any difference. If I give somebody something, I do it because I love doing that, not because I expected them to tell me thank you or whatever else. If the person can't say thank you, that's their own filters. That's their own voices keeping them from saying thank you.
Mm.
If you give somebody, if I tell somebody, if I say thank you to somebody, the person that's receiving the blessing of thank you is me, the teller of the teller, not necessarily the recipient. If somebody tell me thank you or not, whatever, doesn't matter to me. But somebody give you something, you can say thank you. You're the one that's getting the blessing from saying thank you, right? Whether you well the other person, whether the other person, I mean, you could tell the other person thank you, and they might not even be able to hear it. I know there's a. I wish we had a longer time. I could get into something with you, but there's a we filter information through our belief systems and our voices in our head. Somebody could have a lot of negative self-talk. I'm not good enough. I can't do anything right, whatever. If they're running that in their head, you could give that person a compliment or you could give that person something and they will just go, okay, whatever, that's nice. Like they can't receive it. The thing they want the most is to be able to receive things,
Mm.
maybe to receive a compliment, but they can't do it because the voice in their head won't even allow them to receive it. It's interesting. We have a diagnostic tool that can show you all these things of how, and actually show you the filters of how somebody's talking to themselves, and the filters of how they're filtering life. It's a really unique tool, and
So is
I
that
can tell leading classes, I can tell by the way people talk and respond to my questions of what's going on in their filters, what filters they have, and it's way. You ever heard the eyes are the windows to the soul? You ever heard that
mm.
expression? It's a way of reading eyes that's like Myers-Briggs testing or DISC testing on steroids. Way more advanced than any of those personality tests.
Mm.
I'm choosing if
So
I
they,
answered your question, but if
yeah,
there's if you're
you
giving somebody
have.
something, if I give somebody something, I may note that hey, they just say thank you, but would I like to have them on my team? Somebody who's like that in my company? No.
Exactly. That's where I'm going. Like, so that's why I wanted to talk about it. Like, it's not like, so I feel people are missing out by not being grateful. So I
Yep.
wanted us to talk about
And
that.
the person who, if you have somebody like that on your team, go, hey, you realize I just did this, you said this, that, all you do is call your attention to it. And, or, what's going on with you? The person's got to be coachable.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I agree with you. It's their loss, right? It's the loss of the person that is not being grateful. At the end of the day, when you don't say thank you, you're not feeling grateful, it's you that you're losing, not the person that has extended, you
Right.
know, action of benevolence to you. It's you that you are not being grateful that are actually losing. Like you just said, I wouldn't want to have such person on my team. And in the example I gave, I'm not gonna buy anything for those people anymore. I mean, we are
Hmm.
all human beings.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
cool.
so I've just made my decision. I'm not excusing bad behavior, so I'm not gonna. So it's their
Yeah.
loss, right?
Healthy boundaries.
Exactly, the boundaries, yeah.
That's,
So, and I
do it.
just wanted us to link that to, when you were sharing about when you ask people what is going on that is good about their life, and they couldn't even mention things, but they could go on and on about things that are bad about their lives. And I feel like it's very linked to the things that you have in your life that you're not even grateful for because you can't see it.
Can't see
You're
it.
not, yeah.
If somebody's walking around with a lot of anger and resentment inside them, they can't see gratitude. They can't see the blessing in life. They think everything in life's a burden. Everything in life is a blessing. Everything is.
Yeah. And on the flip side, maybe they don't want it. So at the end of the day, everybody is good. Maybe if you're listening to this show, maybe you gave somebody something and they did not appreciate it. Maybe it's a good sign. Maybe they don't want what you gave them. So that way you don't continue to do it
Hmm.
and everybody is fine
Or
at the
what
end
it,
of the day.
or in other words, what inside you needs their approval, and what inside you is trying to get their approval. I mean, you give it to them, or and they don't like them, they don't acknowledge it, then cool. But
Yeah.
I don't require their approval, one way or the
Yeah.
other. I just make a note. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Absolutely. Recently, I interviewed somebody for a position, and the interview was going very well till it wasn't. This person suddenly started talking about how they visited the organization they were supposed to start working, and they were talking about all the bad things they noticed when they visited. And there, I made my decision not to hire them. This is a reminder to know that negativity is not attractive, and a reminder that see the cup half filled up rather than half empty. You know, Mark, we were talking about bullying when before we started recording, and I wanted us to talk about that because I know it affects quite a number of people. And I was sharing with you the other work I'm doing, the project I'm doing where I'm working with some psychologists to look at bullying incidences even in schools in with youths and how we can help. That's another project I'm doing. But I wanted us to talk about bullying because I feel when we talk about consciousness, being in the moment, I feel it's all linked to being self-aware. So in the work that you do, how do you think we can help, or maybe a parent of a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old is listening now, or school age children, what are the things that they can do as parents, as guardians to help these little ones to be better prepared when they face bullying incidences in schools or in playgrounds with their friends? Or, yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna be people who are gonna push people around and all that stuff. The person who's being bullied will go into the victim mentality. They get into that victim mentality. I mean, when I was a kid, I was a big kid, and kids still picked on me, and I'd get pissed and I'd punch them and stuff. And I thought everybody was out to hurt my feelings, were saying things that were hurtful to me. When all that stuff that they were telling me were the voices I already had going on inside my own head about not being good enough and all that stuff. And so they were just saying things that were triggering those voices in my head. So that's where the bullying patterns shows up. Whenever I remember I told you I had a tough time speaking in front of groups of people. So whenever I was taking some classes, and one class in particular, the guy when I went from a stutter with a clear speech, the guy told me, he goes, so, what are you doing now that you're have healed your stuttering thing? And I said, I'm leading my own classes. I go, he'll say that again. I was like, oh crap. So I started saying it again, started crying and everything. That was so out of my box. I remember going to Houston, talking to a girlfriend. I said, I'm gonna go to Houston and start leading classes. And she said, Houston's not ready for this. I said, you've known me for 20 years. Like, the trouble I've had to start speaking this way. And I mean, I didn't tell her any of this stuff. It was running inside my head. I said, this is, I mean, like, I can't believe this is my girlfriend and she's not supporting me in my new way of doing this. She goes, Houston's not ready for this. You got to tone it way down to come do this in Houston. And she goes, you got to tone it down, right? And I recognized that the voices what she was coming out of her mouth was the same shit I was running in my own head. What about Houston? What if Houston's not ready for this? What if this? All that voice of self-doubt. And she was, you want to tone it down, right? I went, no. And I went, oh my God, who said that? So I found my no to all that. And she was like, what? What do you mean no? She said, what are you gonna do? I said, I'm gonna turn it up. And I went, who the hell said that? So those kids, they've given up. For them to be bullied, they've given up their a piece of their will or something. We had a lady come to class. In fact, we had a bunch of people come to class where their will is down so low that They were bullied as kids. They were bullied as kids. They were dating, dating a man, dating people who were using them as a doormat. And I remember asking them, I said, "Is it okay if I poke you in the eye with a sharp stick?" And they would sit there and go, "Well, no." I mean, instead of saying no, like really standing up to it.
Yeah.
So the kids who are bullied, they they have relinquished that will inside themselves to such an
Mm.
extent that they're allowing themselves to say in that victimhood conversation. It's a dance. The bully and the victim have this interesting dance. Victim and villain have an interesting dance.
Mm.
So until one starts to step up and just say no to the bully, and it'll go away. But I mean, it's gonna take some force.
So I hear you said will. They have to
Well,
have the will. Where there's a will, there's a way.
yes, ma'am.
How do they develop the will? We're talking of 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old here. How do they get the will?
Well, most people, a lot of people who don't have the will, their parents have given up the will, they've given up on life, all that. So they have to understand what life's about and have a will to be able to live to go for their dreams. Most people have relinquished their will. So the lineage has been full of people who've given up their dreams. And most people said, "Man, if I didn't have all this fear, doubt, and worry, I could do something with my life." And most people believe fear, doubt, and worry and giving up their will is what's keeping them from their dreams. What's actually the truth is, people gave up their dreams, and all those things rushed in to take the place of it. So the person's got to reclaim their dreams and get back involved in what they're really about in life. When somebody's on purpose, none of that shit bothers them. Pardon
So
me
maybe
about saying it.
that's where meditation and introspection comes in, even
Mm,
for youth, for 6 years old, for 6-year-olds and all that. If they Do you think if they are more self-aware, they will develop the confidence, the will to do all these things, if they know who they are?
they
And
know
so
who they
maybe for
are.
parents and for guidance, whatever they can do to help these youth to develop
They have
more
to do it them. They have to do it
self-awareness.
for them. The parents have to do it for themselves. Most parents don't have a clue of how this stuff works either. They don't have a clue of
Right.
how life works. They're just walking through life and being a victim to their own paychecks. And the kids see it and they go, "Wow, oh, mom and dad aren't happy either." And most bullies were having a tough life at home. They get hit at
Right.
home and they go bully kids or whatever.
Right.
So there's there requires to be a whole paradigm shift occur on our planet. Where every child is consciously conceived, carried, birthed, raised, and all this talk about like even abortion or either board or not or pro-life or pro-abortion and all that stuff. If you can replace it with conscious conception, then that whole argument goes away. You got to find something that replaces both sides. So
Absolutely. Being self-aware, being conscious,
yeah,
being in the
yeah,
moment. Like I
mm,
said, when we were talking, when we started the conversation, I feel like when we get that right, I feel like we get kind of every other thing. Like it feels to me like a foundation, like
mm-hmm.
get that
Get that,
consciousness right. And
yeah,
then
get your
this,
relationship to life, understand how life works.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
a lot of parents they raise their kids by go to bed, brush your teeth, go to bed, brush your teeth, go to bed, brush your teeth, go to bed, brush your teeth. Tell them same old crap again and again and again and again and again and again. You know what that does? That turns them into a little mindless robot.
Hmm.
It
No
you
mind
ever
of
heard?
their own.
Yeah, I mean, turns them into like a little slave. Go do this, go do that, go do this. Go. How many times do I have to tell you to do the same thing again and again and again? You think the parents like doing that? Hell no. You think the kids like hearing that? Hell no. What else it does? You know the pineal. You ever heard of the pineal gland? Are you familiar with the pineal gland? Pineal
No.
gland produces the chemicals for imagination and enthusiasm. The word enthusiasm comes from the Greek word entheos, meaning with God. The pineal
Hmm.
gland on 99.9% of the population is calcified. In other words, it works somewhat or completely or doesn't work at all. And it produces, like I said, produces the chemicals for imagination and enthusiasm. It's our connection to be able to see this movie, is what I'm talking about. The pineal gland has to work. But when parents start telling their kids, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do this, go brush your teeth, the pineal begins to calcify when they start being told what to do and they start to give up their own imagination. And so the way for them to raise a secure kid is, what do you do at night? What's your bedtime routine? You ask them, and the kid goes, "Well, Bedtime's at 8 o'clock. I like to take a shower and I put on my jammies and I really love when mommy and daddy reads to me, or something like that. So the kids is authoring their own life. When you can have the kid from early on author their own life, they don't become an attractant for the bully telling them what to do.
That is very, very good because that is showing the kids how to have their own willpower.
Yep. And stay connected to God. Stay connected to Source. Stay connected to their own imagination. See where they're headed. Yes, ma'am. We do this with all of our classes and being raised the way I was raised. I That's why I'm doing what I'm doing because I had a lot of pain in my childhood. So I turned all that into fuel for what I'm doing now. Thank you, mom and dad, for raising me because I'm really happy with my life now. For the first 50 years of it, not so much, but now it's like, oh my God, they did perfect for me. Oh my gosh. To me, family is really, really important. That's what I really love about our system here is what's changing in families. That's where the rubber really meets the road. What's going on with the
Yeah,
kids? What's going on with that? So that's a really big deal of how I gauge the success of what we're doing here.
yeah.
And man, we got families with kids that are like, woo, they're rocking and rolling, man. It's
Mm.
amazing. Even when they started when the parents started doing stuff, and the kids were maybe 10 or 12 years old, and they're having a lot of. We had one lady who their kids had severe learning disabilities. They said they'll never be able to hold down a job. We're taking ADD meds. We're in special classes. Couldn't make eye contact, and the parents were
Mm.
coming and doing classes, and their kids started to change. Now their kids, you wouldn't even know anything's up with them. They're excelling in life. They're all black belts in Taekwondo. They're all going to
Yeah,
college, making great grades, and I mean, but the parents changed, and the kids changed right along with them.
I agree. To this extent,
Yeah,
it's a reflection of what's the kids are the reflection of, you know, who they are seeing at home, who's parenting them, who's guiding them. Absolutely. Listen, Mark, this has been a very enlightening session, conversation. I've really, really gotten some new knowledge. Like I can have memories about my future. I'm going to explore that
yeah. Give me a
definitely.
call. I'll show you. We'll play with you and show you how to do it.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Since I mean, I
And
love doing this.
yeah, I feel like I can't say it enough. Like it's kind of like the foundation of our life, having no, having that spirituality, having that knowledge of. I feel that's powerful.
Well,
When you
it's so
tap
much
into your
easier to
future.
live life from your
Yeah,
future in reverse.
exactly. Because you'll be more sure. You
Yeah.
you have more confidence. You know. Yeah. Thank you very much. We have a tradition on the show where I ask our guests what they would like to learn next. So, what would you like to learn next?
What would I like to learn next? I have a couple. I'm writing a couple of books. I have a couple of books coming out. So, what it's like to be an author. Remembering what it's like to be an author. I'm working. I got a couple of books coming out. One on body language and one on language, and this gift of co-creation and how it actually works. So that's what I'm looking forward to. What I would like to learn besides that, get being married again. Getting married. I've been single for a long time. I'm dating somebody I really love and appreciate, and it's I learned a lot about love being with this person for real. It's been really different.
Well, that's very, very sweet.
Yeah,
To thank you for sharing that.
you're welcome.
Yeah.